Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Satsang. My new setting. I have moved, and this time I found a place. It's very nice. It's very large, actually, and I'll be here for a month. So I have a little bit of longevity in this place, in Rodenbach, Germany, also near Frankfurt. So, hello, one and all. So glad you're here with me today. I've as I was getting ready for this, for satsang today, as I set up the everything, making sure it works. As you can see, it's kind of a makeshift setup that I'm in. Even if I move too much, the camera moves. So I'll try to be still. And this phrase just came to me, the energy of the infinite. I had just sent out an email that went out today called The Energy of Place. And that feeling that place has. And everything does have kind of this energetic vibe to it. You know, it's nothing we can quantify. There's no material structure there. It's one of those things that goes out beyond what we can try to pinpoint or try to encapsulate into some kind of theory or concept or a physical structure. And yet we're all sensitive to it. We're all sensitive to the feelings of others around us. Well, that is, most of us are. Some are not. Some are we can be quite dense about it. Some are very, very sensitive to it. Well, what about the energy, that vibe of the infinite? What is the infinite? What does that even mean, right? Well, we tend to think of it as being, an unlimited progression of numbers or something. There's unlimited numbers that just go on forever, or unlimited space that just goes on forever, or time or eternity, which just goes on forever. That is an infinite number of things. But the infinite, in the deepest spiritual sense, is not something huge or enormous or an infinite sequence. The infinite is one. I mean, no matter how far out you went in space, however trillions or quadrillions of miles you went, the space you were in would be the same. Now, this is kind of difficult for us to conceptualize. Actually, it's impossible for us to conceptualize because you can't conceive the infinite. Thought, concepts, conceptualization, intellectualization are, by their very nature, finite. The moment you define anything, you have separated it from its environment, from the background, and you've made a thing, and it's no longer infinite. The infinite must be one, and if it is truly infinite, it is everywhere present simultaneously. In fact, to it, there is no space at all. There is no there or here. It is utterly dimensionless. Now, I'm going to invite you to not try to conceptualize that because you can't. But instead, explore in a very personal way, a way that leads to personal realization. Explore the nature, the vibe, the energy of your own consciousness. Now, this is very subtle because in order to do this, you have to become adept at perceiving the difference between the perceiving consciousness and that which is being perceived. By definition, in order for anything to be perceived, it must have form. Even if it's an idea, it's got to have a form. There's got to be an outline around it. So anything perceivable is not infinite. But what about the perceiving itself? So take just the act of perceiving, just consciousness. Completely remove all content from it. So it's empty of all thought, all sensation, all emotion, all experience, all memory, everything. Now, there would still be consciousness of the absence of all those things. In a sense, even the absence of those things would be a memory, so that wouldn't even be there either. I'm talking about absolute emptiness, yet aware. Now, it doesn't have any definition, right? Because all the definition is in the content. No structure, no attributes, because all attributes are perceived. Now, doesn't this accurately express that energy of the infinite? I mean, really examine this. This isn't just an intellectual exercise. It is an existential inquiry. Because you are that consciousness. This is your everyday experience. Consciousness without any content, pure perceiving, without anything being perceived. Only your own sense of being, which isn't actually perceived. It's known. In the sense, the jnana knowledge, which is the transcendent knowledge. By transcendent, it simply means it's beyond any conception. You can go beyond all conceptions, and you still are, aren't you? It's, when I talk about these things, sometimes people, it's so intellectual, right? It's like, no, actually, it's not. It's exactly the opposite. It's precise. It is deep. It does require some kind of curiosity. Right? It isn't just a pat answer. It's not a theology or a philosophy. It is a direct perceiving of yourself without anything extra added on. Pure beingness, pure isness. The energy of the infinite is you. It isn't an abstraction. It's not a God out there somewhere. It's not some absolute authority, because even that, right? I don't care how big you make God, you've still put you've still delineated. God created the universe. Well, where was God? The only way one can imagine any kind of being like that is this infinite, boundless consciousness. Infinite, which means everywhere, which means here. The consciousness that you have wrongly described as yourself, the concept of consciousness being some kind of an individual form. Take that away, and what's left? Just this oneness, just pure consciousness. And that consciousness is you. That is the point I keep trying to bring home over and over and over again. So this isn't just a curious philosophical mind game. We're talking about knowing who you are, who you really are. completely outside the realm of any kind of definition. Any kind of definition puts a line around you, outlines you in some way, turns you into a form. Right? But the consciousness that perceives all form, it's a simple question, one that should just so completely engage you that you come to the answer. That is the consciousness that is perceiving all of those forms. Is that itself any kind of form? And is that not yourself? And if that's yourself, then who are you? On that note, I'm going to welcome everybody here. Hopefully, I have not been able to get one of those little adapters for the European plugs, so I'm running on battery power with some juice getting to it, but very little. So they were supposed to arrive today, and they arrived. I wasn't here, and they took it somewhere else. So we'll see how long I last before the battery runs out today. So I'll try to do my best to get to all of the questions, and I will also try to do my best to keep an eye on the battery so that I can, in a very orderly way say goodbye rather than suddenly being cut off. But if I am suddenly cut off, which shouldn't happen for at least an hour or so, then you know what happened. So, Roberto, my friend in Madrid, if awakening happens when it must happen or be given to you, and there's nothing one can do in order to achieve it, what the heck am I doing here? Well, the awakening is not in time. I was talking about the infinite, which is beyond space, right? Infinite, the eternal kind of conveys this idea of an infinite amount of time, right? Whereas enlightenment, awakening, spiritual realization, self-knowledge, they're not in time. It isn't a moment in time. So even say the awakening happens when it must or be given to you, is to think of it as some kind of an event that's going to be a transformation of my thinking, and suddenly I'm going to be this enlightened being, which bounds the entire enterprise in time. But if this is really the truth, it is not bound in or by time. It is the truth now. So what is experienced as an awakening is in fact not a moment in time. It's a theme that is playing out throughout all time. It is the only thing that's ever been happening. What does your awakening look like, Roberto? Coming here, being in satsang. This is the awakening. Now you say, what the heck am I doing here? If it's just going to happen, whether I do anything or not, I should go do something else. And I would say, go, try. Good luck. See what you can do. You're going to find that you've been drawn to this. You're interested. You're curious about this. It's been engaging you. You're not going to be able to let this go. You cannot unring this bell. That is the awakening. How the awakening unfolds in an individual life, right, is only the way it appears. Awakening is the universal theme. The awakeness or the perpetual light of being is forever. And this is the theme, like a great symphony, you hear the theme, the motif, that it's played in 1,000 different ways, goes through different keys and variations and the like. And in the hands of a master composer, each one of those brings a dimension to it, is just overwhelming, until finally it reaches a climax that is extraordinary, that takes you just to another level altogether. This is what the awakening is. The awakening is not an event that's going to happen. The awakening is what is happening right now. It always has been. Even the times in your life when you thought it was horrible, nothing was ever going to be any better, everything seemed to be going to hell in a handbasket, that was the awakening. That was the shifting in perception. That was the reminder that everything in front of your eyes is changing constantly. Don't trust it. Don't buy real estate there. Don't build your house on sand. There's nothing there to get. So what are you doing here? You're waking up. And you didn't choose this. Just it must happen and be given to you. This just happened to you. You didn't choose this. You didn't go out looking for me or this kind of a teaching. Right? You were, something happened, and there you were. Right, and there it was. Right? I have a friend of mine who was in a bookstore one day. I was looking through all the books. She was about the only one in the store. There was nobody else around her for 20 feet. And a book fell off the shelf onto her head, hit her in the head. There's nobody around. They didn't have earthquakes where she was. She picked up the book, and I think maybe I ought to read this, which she did. Had enormously powerful experiences from it. But so you see, nobody plans on that. Why did she go into that bookstore? Why was she standing there? Why did that book fall off the shelf right at that moment? Why did you have the experiences that you had? Why the job that you have, the things that you're doing? All of it. There's only one thing you can possibly attribute it to. That the future, the awakening, right? As some kind of a transformation of consciousness is already present, beckoning you towards it. And every single experience along the way is not an obstacle to it, but is the unfoldment of it. It's the only way you can look at it. Otherwise, it's just another moment in time. The awakening is always there. What isn't always there is the false sense of self, the imaginary consciousness which vaporizes. We call that the awakening, but anyone who could possibly awaken vanishes in the awakening. There's nobody left. As Muji puts it so beautifully, so the one who begins the inquiry does not finish the inquiry, but is finished by the inquiry. Any interest that you have in what I'm saying, anybody here, any interest, it's not a thing you decided. I think I'm going to be interested in this non-dual stuff. Nobody decides that. I mean, all of our interests, right? The interest in the job you're doing, or the interest in, the people you're with, or the hobbies, the entertainment. Where did any of that come from? Did we choose any of those? Let go of the idea that it's anything other than right now, that this is it. There's nothing special coming. This is it. And when the mind begins to get fixed there, that this is it, and it stops looking for some kind of extraordinary event, there's a power of attention that gets brought to this moment, wherein you begin to see this moment reveal itself as the awakening, as the only thing that has ever been going on. How's that, Roberto? How's that, everybody? Rosario in Madrid. Liza, greetings, everyone. Milo, good evening, everyone. What exactly means high alertness in a spiritual context? Why is it so positive, important, and beneficial? How can it be attained, practiced? Thanks. Well, I've never really heard it as the term high alert or alertness. But I believe what you're talking about is just the sense of, in a spiritual context, is the sense of vigilance, the sense of an alert watching, right? Because especially when you're in the process of spiritual growth, it is so easy to fall back into conditioning without even recognizing it. And the only thing that can keep us from just falling back asleep is just this sense of alertness, the sense of vigilance, the sense of of awareness, and the discrimination of the various thoughts and what they represent. It's so easy to fall back into the old patterns of thought because they were completely programmed into you, right? They don't just go away. A great insight or a great moment or seeing something you've never seen before, an aha, even the parting of a Red Sea will have a profound impact that is going to reverberate through the entire system, but it doesn't completely overturn all of the conditioning of this and prior lifetimes. So as a result, these habitual patterns keep coming back up. The habit energy of the mind is what Buddha referred to it as. And we modern use of it as programming or condition. That's what we call it now. But he recognized that these habitual karmic patterns. Now, if we see that they are conditioning, and beyond conditioning, we see that this is karma. This is the energy of repetition of the mindless mind through countless lifetimes. He even refers to it beginningless projections, or projections without beginning. Right? Only through our alert, intuitive discrimination can we discern, that thought originates with a finite sense of self. That thought points towards limitless being. So the thought of myself as infinite consciousness, forever unlimited, forever boundless, while the thought itself has no power or authority, it points towards the truth. The thought, I'm limited, finite, is not true. Right? And therefore, to see that, even though you believed it for lifetimes, to now you go, oh, that's not really true. You stop engaging with that thought. When it comes up, you simply dismiss it. And it doesn't matter how many times it comes up. It doesn't matter how many times somebody tells you something that isn't true, right? It still isn't true, right? And no matter how much authority they seem to carry, you go, it's just not true. So I'm not going to give it my attention. This is the discrimination of the of true intelligence. Because the normal pattern, I cover this in one of the courses called Your Four Powers of Creation. The normal pattern is our focus of attention. What gets our attention, and what gets our attention is driven by our beliefs. And the essence of all belief, the kind of the mother of all beliefs, is the sense of identity. And the three of those function as this closed system until a discriminating insight happens. That discriminating insight is awakening, where you suddenly see that, oh, it's simply the habit of what I have believed to be true, which keeps pulling my attention back towards these things because I thought they were true. Now they're not true. I'm removing my attention from that. And the deepest beliefs there are the ones I hold about who I am. Am I the infinite, illimitable consciousness, completely untouched by all conditioning? Or am I a conditioned being struggling somehow to get to awakening? Which of those is true? Which of those must be true? If it is true that even someday I would be the infinite being, well, then that day must be now. It must have always been true, because the infinite could never be anything other than infinite. The truth could never be anything other than truth. So I'm going to leave it at that, Milo. I hope I covered that. This is why my constant emphasis on paying attention to the thoughts that are grabbing your attention, to become discriminating about it, right? And that's how you practice it. You get better and better at it, not because it's a technique you get better at, but because you're more increasingly discerning. You're more aware of what the truth actually is, and more are you then relying on that to say that isn't true. And despite the fact that it keeps coming up, you don't make any big deal out of the fact that it keeps coming up. It doesn't make it any more true. Well, why does it keep coming? Even to engage in that turns it into this kind of this adversarial entity that's out to get you. It is only recurring thoughts. So, you go, oh, so the thought came again. All right, so what? So I still have an annoying neighbor. So what? Right? I just pay less and less and less heed to it. I don't get wrapped up in its story. I don't follow its narrative. And because it is not self-sustained, there is no entity there. The only thing that makes it go is the degree of attention I give it. If I withdraw that attention, it will inevitably fade into nothingness, because it cannot sustain itself. The false cannot sustain itself. Truth, though, is self-sustaining. It does not rely on anything other than itself to be true. Thank you, Milo. Karen, hello to Europe. Many people are drawn to me. Someone told me this had a special meaning. Is that true? Could be. There is where there's a natural spirituality or a cultivated spirituality. Remember, everybody is energetic. Everybody senses energy, whether they're aware of it or not. You know, when you're aware of it, you can become more sensitive to it, and it becomes it becomes a delightful, powerful, a necessary tool for a healer. But it's important, very important, to not take it personally, that they're drawn to me, the person. That's kind of a charisma, right? That leads to, big personality, celebrity, and that sort of thing, which is not, that those things never end well. Okay. If, in fact, though, because people are sensitive to energy, and your vibe, your energy is becoming increasingly less attached to the personal sense and more a reflection of the divine, what they're being drawn to then is not you personally, but their own nature, which they are sensing in you. I always make the point to my students of inner reconciliation is that when you're working with somebody, the energy, the heart of someone, that which wants to be liberated, is constantly looking for the safest place it can find. Most of the time, if somebody comes to you for help, the one coming is not safe. They don't know how to be safe. They're engaged in self-help and they're self-improvement. They're trying to do all this stuff, and they're forever engaged in in criticizing or judging themselves in the futile attempt to become better, to become more as if somehow that's going to do it. But if they've come to you and you're aware of this, you realize that their energy, they are going to feel safe because you're creating the safe space, and they're going to respond to that. But it's not you personally. When you make it personal, the door is wide open for the ego to take over and go, oh, aren't I wonderful? I'm so good. I'm so empathetic. I'm so psychic. I just have this net. It becomes very, very personal. And that is very dangerous ground. Because first off, it isn't personal. It doesn't belong to a personality. The personality is excuse me, later in the party, and is taking credit for something it didn't create. This is the ego. The ego wants to build itself up, and you can easily get lost in it. So you just put all that aside, right? Whatever it is they're drawn to is the highest light, the highest energy, the highest love that I am emanating in this moment. It is the love they're responding to, not me personally. And what I'm trying to do is to completely dissolve the person so they don't exist at all. So there's nothing but the light of love. Then you get a figure like Buddha or Christ or Ramana, where there was no person there. It was pure love. This is the sage. It's pure wisdom, pure presence, right? Because there's nobody there saying they're drawn to me. There's no me for them to be drawn to. And then you see what they're really being drawn to is their own self, the truth about them. And that is the most attractive thing in the universe. That is what everybody is seeking. That's what everybody wants. The only reason you come here and listen to me is because that's what you want. It's not me, this old guy sitting on a couch somewhere, wandering around. That's not what you're looking for. It's the qualities that are coming through that you are resonating with. And so the namaste is literally true. The divine in you recognizes the divine in me because they are one. It is a self-recognition. So thank you for that, Karen. Suzanne. Hello, GP. What does it take an energy vampire or narcissist to change? And is it possible in the first place? Thanks. Yes. And the answer I have to give to that is always the same. And excuse me, I've got to grab my water. I left it too far away, but we have a table nearby. Excuse me, bring this a little closer. Makeshift studio. All right. Let's bring the microphone back a little bit. Here we go. Okay. Let's check this out now. Yes, there is there is a way, and what it takes for anybody who is locked into a negative egoic pattern is suffering. Either it is awakening, some kind of awakening, or suffering, and suffering is simply a phase of awakening. They are already suffering. There's a deep sense of lack, a sense of their own insignificance, their own lack of value, which is what creates the energy vampire or the narcissist in the first place. They are not healthy. They are not happy. Although they exude these qualities, they are completely at the mercy of others. They're forever sucking. They can't be alone for a minute. They hate their own presence. Now, because they've learned how to suck energy from others or to lord it over others and gaslight and all the little techniques that they've learned how to do. And also energy vampires and narcissists are bedfellows. They are suffering, right? And so when I say the thing that starts to bring an end to it, an awakening to it, is suffering, what I'm talking about really is becoming aware that they are suffering. because it's been so glossed over. Maybe they've successfully managed to keep this thing buried, to suck energy off of others, or to get the praise from others, to feed on others, others' energy. Maybe they've been successful enough that they've been able to quiet the hungry ghost inside, but it won't last forever. That capacity to to ignore your suffering, it simply won't last forever. It can't. And at some point, that sense of suffering will become acute. And when it does, it will be very difficult at first because they won't know why. They're just going to be, it'll just be terrible, because at some point, all the stuff they've been doing, the normal kinds of stuff that have been insulating themselves from what they felt, it won't work anymore. It simply won't quiet the inner grind, that inner annoying voice. And then there's an awareness that takes place. It can happen very quickly. A transformation can happen very quickly, but oftentimes they go through a period of just kind of reaping what they've sown, coming back at them. And imagine there's a lot of habit energy, right? That even if they get some little insight, the momentum of that, because it has been successful at it, because it has been consistently there, it's not going to go away in a heartbeat. And so there will be an acute awareness of suffering, which will eventually open up a desire to become free of suffering, which could also open up all sorts of feelings of guilt and recrimination, seeing the consequences of their own actions, seeing the impact that it's had. And it could even take lifetimes for that to take place. But that's always the way it works. But you have to understand that's an awakening, right? When I become aware of the suffering that's been there the whole time, I can no longer insulate it or buffer it. That's an awakening. Remember, awakening doesn't always come with, roses and soft music. In fact, it almost never does. That kind of self-realization, personal realization of Buddha knowledge, that happens at a different phase. For most people, they go through many different phases. In Buddhism, there's like 10, the 10th being the realm of Buddhahood, and it's level 8 before you qualify as a bodhisattva, right? One who seeks enlightenment for the benefit of all beings and not just for themselves. It takes a while to get there, in many different practices. So that's the way it happens. It behooves you, and anybody here, and remember, we all have a little bit of that in us. It's all a matter of degree, right? The ego has all of these characteristics. For some, it's more under control. If you're more aware of your suffering, you're going to be less prone to do that. But there's not somebody over there who's the energy vampire or the narcissist. Know that those qualities are in you, and allow yourself permission to see them, right? Because once you can embrace these and embrace that sense of powerlessness and vulnerability and lack of worth and value that gives rise to them, you will become, the fruit will be twofold. Number one, you'll no longer be susceptible to their charm, right? And secondarily, you will forgive them. You will find them innocent. You will see, you will understand the suffering that is under the surface and feel it for them even when they can't. And then you're on the path, right? But don't go, oh, that guy's a narcissist. The ego is narcissistic by nature. It is an energy suck by nature. To the degree that you are still identified, even in a slight bit, with the ego, to that very degree, the narcissist and the energy vampire is alive and well in you. So, as Jesus said beautifully, cast the log, take the log out of your own eye before you try to take the sliver out of your brothers or sisters. And this isn't a condemnation. Oh my God, I'm an energy vampire. Nothing like that. You have to see that it is not a personal thing, right? They didn't, they weren't a little baby somewhere learning, wanting to, in grade school, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a narcissistic energy suck. I want to be an energy vampire. I want to take advantage of people. Nobody does that. It happens simply because of conditioning and circumstances. So none of these things are personal. The ego isn't personal. It is just this universal belief that we've all been saddled with. And the awakening is, in its most simplistic forms, awakening to the fact that you are not that ego. You are something altogether, which frees you from the illusory nature of it and its constant shifts, and because there's nothing substantial there. It is simply morphing from one thing to another, and that's why it's so insubstantial. But you, the truth of you, does not morph. It is always the truth. So, how's that, Suzanne? Beautiful question. Thank you. Patricia. Hello, Patricia, my good friend in LA. Hello, Ava. Hello, Robbie. There's David and Elaine. Hello. Guten Abend. Hallo, Sukschamen. Hallo, lieber GP. I have been trying to practice German. It's a hard language. Just saying. But good evening to you, Virgo. Oh, wonderful. Teresa. Hello, Teresa. Namaste, GP, and all, and everyone from Portugal. So happy being here for the first time. Oh, wonderful. I'm glad. We're so glad to have you. Lovely. Thank you for telling me it's the first time too. So, if anything is that's said here is new or odd or different to you, please let me know so I can give it give you special attention, because the non-dual conversation, although deeply spiritual, is different. It's different, and it can take some getting used to. But I think you'll feel that the essence of it is just love. I mean, love with no restrictions whatsoever. Infinite love. So, welcome, Teresa. Jay, Hari Om G, and everyone. Hari Om Jay. There's Crispin. Hello. Thank you for the welcome. Tatiana. Hello, curious beings from Toronto. Hi there, Virginia Cummings. Hello. Can you touch on observing one's thoughts and observing what's happening and changing in the field without judgment? Yeah. If you want to go right to the essence of it, the simplest way, recognize that the thought of judgment is just another thought. The judgment of the thoughts is another thought, right? So a thought comes up, or a happening in the environment, right? There's something going on in the world or in your personal life, right? And there's thoughts about it, or maybe that you've been practicing watching thoughts and disidentifying with the limited sense of self, right? And there can be a judgment that comes up about, you're not doing this very well. How long have you been at this and you still don't get it? Isn't that just another thought? The way to transcend judgment is to realize that judgment is nothing but a collection of conditioned thoughts. And the origin of judging thoughts is simply, it's one of the techniques, one of the strategies the nervous system uses to make sure you don't go think or identify in a particular direction. Oh, that's bad. You can't do that, right? Which is, of course, a conditioning thing, because you tried to do that in the past. You got hurt. The nervous system said, we can't do that anymore. And then eventually it can develop a morality, a sense of right and wrong about it. So now it's just not something you weren't able to do because it was rejected by your tribe, but it's morally bad. It's reprehensible. God doesn't like it. It's sinful. Right? You can get that intense. Why do they do that? They shouldn't do that. Right? I shouldn't do that. But notice those are all thoughts. Right? Observe the judging thought as well. And what will emerge is not a moral relativism, but a genuine intuitive knowledge of what is absolutely true. And it is out of the truth of a thing that the distinguishing of right and wrong emerges. And for me, that has simply become love. Right? And everything is gradations of love. Right? The more loving it is, the more true it is, the more right it is. For me, it's that simple. That is the discriminating eye, but it's not judgmental. It understands every single level of consciousness and therefore is not judgmental of any of it, but it recognizes that at this level of consciousness, there will be judging thoughts. Right? Now, if you transcend that, you transcend both the circumstance, the thought, and the judging thoughts. And that transcendence is taking you to the higher place, the highest place of all, being pure love. That is the actual energy of the infinite, is pure love. Observing one's thoughts without judgment, yes. And so now you can begin to discern, to really discern why things are happening the way they are. Why are certain events taking place? If you look at our world, it's not in really great shape. An enormous amount of evil, but there are not any evil people. Humans aren't inherently evil, but there are thought systems that move increasingly towards the ego, and then there are spiritual systems that move increasingly towards infinite universal love. Now, it's simply discerning the reality, the natural consequence of the direction. Where does an increasing greed and selfishness eventually lead? To what we have. Where would an increasing amount of love lead? Well, it's obvious, right? So it's not like you should do this, this is wrong, this is right. It's like, this is true, this isn't. Just look. Just look. Using your own eyes. You don't need somebody to point that out to say this is more. I don't need a book with 10 or 1,000 commandments in it. I can see, I can discern, I can look and go, love goes that way, hate goes that way, and it's inevitable. That's the way it's going to go. This is natural law. This is spiritual law. This is the conjunction of the two. Simply the way it is. Therefore, what is the highest? What is the highest? Love. That is not judgmental, but discriminating, because it's looking from the place of truth. But not truth as a system of thought, not truth as a particular ideology or theology, not because it says so in some book, but because your inherent sense of being recognizes the superiority of love over hate and the inevitable consequences of both through the direct observation of an open-hearted soul. And that's how you free yourself from the judgments. They're just thoughts. A judging thought is simply a particular point of view that has been accepted, and now you can look at it and go, it's too small. It doesn't see the big picture. To just judge or criticize or even condemn somebody without understanding, you get that kind of judgmental point of view. But if you discern, if you dig deeper, if you look more closely, then you'll see. and you'll see for yourself. You won't have to say, oh, GP said, right? Or anybody said, or Buddha said, right? I will bring that up, right? Because there are certain people that obviously are trustworthy. You know, if Ramana Maharshi says it, or Muji says it, or Nisargadatta says it, or um, any one of a number of sage say it, well then okay, yeah, it's worth me pondering to see whether I see it as well, or I come up with a disagreement. If I come up with a disagreement, well, why? Right? Let's examine it. Never accept anybody's authority other than your own, and you will be free of judgment. Thank you, Virginia. What a beautiful question. Hello, Dorte. John Shin. Hello, my friend. Anything experienced is not me. Happy holiday, all. Yes, anything you perceive cannot be you. Duh. And you cannot perceive yourself because you cannot step apart from yourself and examine yourself. So perception is always of other. So what is self-knowledge then? It cannot be subject-object relationship. Can't. You can't look at it. So as valuable as subject-object relationship is, and the scientific method that is based on it, it is limited. It cannot go beyond that point. It can look at anything in the universe and examine it in great detail. It cannot look at itself. You cannot know yourself. You can only be yourself. And this is what's spoken of as Vedanta, the end of knowledge. It's the point beyond which knowledge cannot go. It is beyond all human research. Tien, hello from Vietnam. Wow, wonderful. Hello, Tien. Barbara in Sweden, hello. Werner, hey, GP. Does allowing change our relationships, our perception of the energy of the infinite? Yes, of course. Yeah. When you're allowing is the nature of the infinite, right? Does the infinite have any argument with anything? Does it say, oh, you can't happen? It's included in the infinite. And if we see the infinite as not just this big impersonal thing, but as being itself, as singular intelligence, as the very heart of love, well, then the nature of it is pure allowing. The way the eye doesn't discriminate or judge or criticize anything that it sees. The light gets there, it gets in. It's already in before all the judgment or criticism or assessment or associations, all the meaning that's given to what gets in, right, happens later. But by that time, it's already in. And so awareness is just pure allowing. In fact, you could say pure awareness and allowing are absolutely synonymous. And so as a result, you're completely open to discerning whatever's happening. And that, of course, that's going to affect your relationships. Because if I'm rejecting parts of the relationship and allowing others, right, that defines the relationship, doesn't it? I mean, in fact, that is the relationship. What I let in and what I won't. There's the boundaries. But if I'm totally allowing, right? Now, allowing doesn't mean anybody gets into my inner space, right? I can have anybody, as an intimate in my life. It's not what it means. What it means is that I'm allowing myself to see things as they are. That also includes discerning the level of consciousness where somebody is, which means you clearly discern, are they trust? How close can I allow them to be? Can this relationship be? But notice you're simply allowing it yourself to see things as they are. That's it. And then allowing to see it without judging, right? Just discerning, it changes everything. It changes your whole perception of the universe, because the perception now is discerning what's actually there. And remember, the most important part of this practice of allowing, the yoga of allowing, is allowing our own feelings, because that's where the disconnect is. Right. We have rejected so much of it. I can't feel that. This isn't good. I'm not going to think about that. That we've literally defined our whole sense of identity like that. So it starts with simply allowing yourself to feel what you feel want what you want, whatever you happen to be thinking, you're not in arguing with it at all. You're moving into this other place. Allowing is the nature of love. It's the nature of the heart, so that you can now see clearly with love. There's an acceptance, there's an unconditional love about it, that, oh, there it is. And in that unconditional acceptance, you can see it for what it is. You can discern at what level of consciousness it is operating in. And which means you're seeing it from a place transcendent of it, which means you can help it. This is the bodhisattva. You're more than willing to help it raise, if it can, right? If it can't, it can't. And you don't do anything except alleviate as much suffering as you possibly can. So yes, it changes everything, because what is your relationship? What is any relationship except your perception? Your perception of another combined with the perception of yourself is relationship. And those, until that sense of self comes home and is abiding in this in the space of the true self, right? Until then, this will be fluctuating. Right? You just want to make sure that this is what allowing does, is keeps that perception keeps opening and opening and opening until the perception simply dissolves into the energy of the infinite. And then I and the infinite are one. And I see all. Thanks, Werner. Diane, love and thank you. Much is becoming more clear. So very contented after great pain. Oh, so good for me to hear that. Yes, our pains and troubles aren't necessarily bad. I know we don't want to experience them, but it's okay when we do. You can find the contentment in them. You can find that place that is not touched and never was and never will be. And the more you abide there, the more the ups and downs, the fluctuations, the sorrows and the joys, the pains and the pleasures will have no lasting impact. You will be free of them. And that is true happiness or contentment. Jay, it was just more of a choosing thought, was more appealing at the time, and you just decided to go with that, but you weren't putting any effort into choosing, right? You can't put any effort into choosing, right? The choosing thought is the energy of motion, and it just kind of starts taking. And I'm going to look here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to plan that. But you can see that's all just part of that, the energy that gets set in motion when the choosing thought takes place. Now, the more aware you are of who you are, the more you can decide whether or not to let that choosing thought play itself out. In which case, you're at a place transcendent of all choice. Right? It isn't the last word, right? You say, okay, we're going to go with that one, right? Or no, we're not. It continues. I was listening to a topic on deep work from Hidden Brain, and they were talking about how our culture is constantly distracted with multitasking. Why are people so interested in multitasking, especially employers, when it's been proven it doesn't produce effective results? Something it's weird if you can multitask. And Christine says, love and light from Germany. Hi, Christine. Well, it's driven by economics. It's simply that. Now, everything shows that it is less productive, and it's incredibly harmful. It's unnatural for our nervous systems, and all it does is create stress, which of course reduces productivity, which is counter to the whole point, right? But you've got the executives on top that say more profit, right? Sell more or make it cost less to make. And so they would rather decrease productivity and cut the labor force in order to raise the profits, which then, of course, Wall Street loves that, and the stock price goes up, and the executives make more money, even though it's hurting the business, because that's the priority. You have to understand it's a matter of priorities. Anybody who's intelligent goes, that's stupid. That's not a long-term strategy. But we're not talking about long-term strategies when you're talking about that level. We're talking about make a killing in the stock market this quarter, this quarter, this quarter. That's it. It's a the future is 3 months long. Right? The next time I have having to report it. So it's a value system that is self-evidently dysfunctional and destructive. But everybody absolutely knows that we can't continue to just endlessly suck every natural resource out of the ground without running out. Everybody knows it, and yet we keep doing it. Why? We have to have more profit, more profit, more profit, more profit. It has become the god of this world. This is the love of money. Profit is the love of money, which Christ rightfully said was the cause of all evil. Not money itself. It's innocent. It's nothing, right? It's whatever we make it to be. But it has come to mean profit, status, power. And therefore, the love of it is the insatiable drive for profit, which basically started after World War II. This whole thing became more and more and more about that, up to the point where all the natural resources, the economies of pretty much of all the countries now are being exploited. They're being sucked dry from the money. I could go on and on about this forever, but this is a beautiful case in point. The ultimate employers would rather have a bunch of stressed out, overworked people that weren't nearly as productive as before, but costs a whole lot less, than to have it be more cost, have the business be more substantial and have longevity, but affect the immediate profits. That's the choice. And it's a choice they will make all the time, because that is the value system of the culture. That's the neoliberal system. There's no way out of it. This is capitalism. And I'm not saying that, oh, what are you, a communist? No, that system didn't work either. There's a completely different way we can do all of this. One that's humane, that makes sense, that is just filled with love, compassion, understands the nature of the earth, that the earth is in fact an infinite resource. If we harmonize with it, it is proven to be infinitely resourceful and capable of recycling, but it can be stressed to the breaking point. If we understand this, and that becomes our instead of governments, we have resource management. Instead of profit, we have universal care and cooperation. Right? Instead of private wealth and public nothing, we have public wealth. We have public luxury and private sufficiency. Right? There's no need for everybody in America to have a swimming pool. Every community have a big, beautiful public swimming pool that everybody gets to use. Now, there's no ego status in that, and that's just one of the big problems, the storyteller mind, the egoic system. Right? It defines itself in terms of these things. So it'd rather have a higher stock price and a bad business than a lower stock price and a sustainable business. It's madness, to put it bluntly. It's madness. So that's why they're interested in it. And there are some people who just haven't thought through it, say, hey, I'm really good at multitasking. Nobody is. The nervous system was not designed to do that. One thing at a time, with a little part of the system just kind of being aware, alert to danger, but basically in the background, stress-free. And so there's some people say, oh, I'm really good at multitasking. Oh my God, yes, I'm really good at self-destructing. That's basically what they're saying. I love stress. I want more of it. Yes, and they think there's something wrong with you if you can't. I can't. I find it incredibly difficult, incredibly stressing. And, sometimes just the nature of things, often you have to, right? But like when I'm writing a course or a program or a blog or an article, there's nothing else that exists in the world. I am just there. It reaches a point where it's a lull. I can put it aside and I'll do something else. But I cannot create any other way. And nobody can. One of the characteristics of people who have produced works that would be regarded as genius. Let me check the battery here real quick before I forget. Oops. Oh, good. I think we're going to make it. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. One of the characteristics of genius, right? It isn't intelligence. It isn't IQ, right? It is the capacity to focus with an enormous amount of exclusivity, to filter out everything except what's in front of them. That was the one characteristic the one attribute that characterized great geniuses, from artists to scientists. It is this just almost obsessive ability to just nothing else, right? Completely focused. And that is the only way in which true great things happen. Otherwise, you're just a stressed out puppy. I love you, Jay. Peter from Italy. Hello, Peter. Blessings to every human being. Thank you. Hi, Clara. Good to see you. Guten Abend. And Mukhji. And Anya. I have not yet. I got Guten Abend. I don't know what that other one is yet. Teresa, thank you, GP. I've been watching almost all your videos. I'm attending your inner reconciliation course. I've practiced meditation for some years. Ah, wonderful, 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 wonderful. You'll love inner reconciliation. It's yeah. I'm so glad I ran across it. I truly am. It's just the whole process by which that came to me, and it's just been so freeing and liberating and loving. It was just, after many years of being very spiritually disciplined and the like, and thinking that somehow I was supposed to transcend all these feelings, and to just fall into this incredible love and embracing of everything human, just the essence of the Bodhisattva path. So, Anya says, Guten Abend from Hanover. Thank you for your satsang, Juji. Hopefully you have a nice new place. It's a nice place. And the nice thing about it is I just rented a room, just a private room with a shared bathroom in a guy's house. And he's got 2 rooms that he rents out. And I'm the only one who rented the room. And he's in Ecuador until January 18th. I have the whole place to myself. I'm completely alone for the next month in this beautiful big house, and with a nice kitchen, and it's like wonderful. And I bought a car. I found a car that I was blown away, because it's an ugly car for sure, but it's incredibly. It was only €2,000, and it's like 20 years old and has like 95,000 kilometers on it. For you Americans, that's 60,000 miles. 20 years old. He said it was only driven by this little old lady on Saturdays to go to the store. And I believe it, because it's in perfect condition. The inside is immaculate. So I have a car to buzz around in, which is one of the things I wanted to do. So it's good. It's good. Let's see. Tatiana. Some people emphasize light, the others love as important. What's your comment? What's the difference? It depends on the moment. Light is associated with consciousness, wisdom, intelligence, discernment, and love, of course, the heart, unconditional acceptance. I I can't separate the two, right? To truly discern in the most in the most precise consciousness is loving, because that's all you're ever going to see. And the most loving thing to do is to strive to perceive the truth, right? I mean, where else are you going to go? Truth holds all the cards. Literally, where else are you going to go? So to me, they're one. Love, truth, spirit, compassion, intelligence, wisdom, they're all one. They're not, they're different flavors of the same transcendent essence, right? As Nisargadatta put it, I've quoted it a million times, to know that you are nothing is wisdom. To know that you are everything is love. Between these two, my life flows. Some point, it's sometime light, the light, the precision of wisdom and inquiry and scrutiny is appropriate. Sometimes just come on, let's give me a hug. Let's just sit here and enjoy this moment. And they're one and the same, really. And yes, some people emphasize one over another, and that's just a way in which the mind gets stuck somewhere. Okay. Oh no, it's got to be like this. And you can tell the moment anything has to be like anything, rather than what does this moment need. Life doesn't say it's got to be like this. Life is forever flowing. The river hits a rock, it goes around it, right? If it's on a big rock, it just takes a couple million years, but it carves a canyon, right? It just finds its way, right? And so there isn't really a difference. And if somebody is stuck on one side or the other, maybe you can help them get unstuck by not being that. What does this moment require? And it will be some combination of them all. And you can tell that it's the yin yang, right? In the black side, there's the little white spot. In the white side, there's the little black spot. In pure wisdom, the pure wisdom of precision, there's love. And in love, there's wisdom. Pure love, unconditional, just total receptivity, goddess energy. There's wisdom. There's the discerning eye, right? You can't separate them. So don't even try. Barbro, who am I? Or I remember what I am. What's the difference? Well, nothing really, right? What one could say is, who am I is the inquiry, right? It's the constant inquiry. If I'm not my thoughts, if I'm not my feelings, if I'm not my sensations, if I'm not my emotions, if I'm not my history, if I'm not my karma, if I'm not my associations, if I'm not my desires, my ambitions, all the expectations of the future, if I'm not any of the content that I experience on a day-to-day level, then what's left? Who am I that is discerning it? Now, if you see it like that, that this question landing in the middle of all of this kind of this disidentification with all form and content, and staying right here in this place of alert awareness, you're in the inquiry. That is the pure who am I? And that's the place from which that question needs to be asked, and from which it gets an answer. Now, the other one, I remember who I am. It's a way of saying the same thing, right? There's a discernment. See, even on a level, before the Buddha awakening takes place, and you realize that, well, I'm not any of those things. I don't really know who I am. Now, the only reason you're going to say that is because the mind is still trying to answer the question who I am with some form. And so the who I am is not formless. It can't be conceptualized. And this is the great step that everyone has to make. The answer to the question of who am I, you are the answer to that. And there is no concept there at all. I am who? That's it. Now, because of the fact that sense can be there, and then immediately all of the conditioning, all the feelings, everything, all the thoughts that have for years, for lifetimes, identified with form, with concepts, with beliefs, with ideas, right? There's this other phrase that say, remember who you are. Abide in this place. Abide in that sense, however fragile it may seem, of being consciousness without any content, pure being, pure awareness. That is who I am. I'm remembering that, and I'm going to abide there. I'm going to keep, which means I'm going to keep bringing my sense of I out of its engagement with form and content and back into this place of pure awareness. The I is pure awareness. And now just look at it. Is that which is discerning that I am not emotion, thought, feeling, sensation, associations, memory, aspirations. I am not that. I am aware of that. The nature of that I is not the form, it is the awareness of the form. Awareness and the I are one. I remember who I am. I am that which is aware. In fact, though, awareness is not something I am aware of. There would still be two. That would be like another object. It's a concept. The only thing I can say then, purely, to make it purely true, is I am awareness. Awareness is what I am. It is not, I am not something that is aware. I am awareness itself. Abide there. Whenever you find yourself identified with content, I am the awareness of the content. Ramana would tell people, somebody said, this is happening. He says, to whom is it happening? To whom is this thought appearing? To me. But who am I? Who is that which perceives thought? Something that is aware? So awareness and it are two? But there'd have to be awareness to be aware of the awareness. The I is awareness. It is not something that is aware, it is awareness itself. This is the process of who am I, remember, abide. So you can see they're different in application, they're one in essence. Thank you, Barbara. My Swedish contingency. Werner, thank you, GP. Oh, you're welcome, Werner. Love you, brother. Jay, likes and dislikes are all thought-based preferences, but there's none of that in your true self because it's natural for everything to come into that field. Yeah, preferences itself are simply a part of the ever-changing kaleidoscope. So they're nothing to be denied or avoided. They're fine. I heard it's more fair in other parts of the world where wealth is spread evenly. I hope we get to the point where we value resources Mother Earth gave us and our efforts are more human being friendly and animal friendly and everything. It's crazy how 60 hours more of work is normal. Yes. Yeah. It's continuing is about multitasking and what we really need for human beings. But we have to evolve the level of consciousness that perceives it. The good news is we are. Everybody I said that to, and many, many, many people get exactly what I've been talking about. The system itself is dysfunctional. But that's a level of consciousness. That is awakening, right? And we awaken, we go, oh, this isn't good. Whew, this has a bad smell. It's part of it. It has to happen. Right? Just don't become bitter. Don't become resentful. Don't become cold. Don't become distant. Don't become overly critical. Don't be polarizing. Be love. And that will change it. And all preferences are temporary. They're transient. Do you have the same preferences now that you did 20 years ago, or when you're 5, right? Will you have them the same when you're my age? No, they won't be the same. So preferences too just are something that come and go. So they're nothing to be made a big deal out of. Right now I prefer to eat this over that. I prefer to live here than rather here. I prefer to be in Europe now than the United States. Right? That could change tomorrow. Because I don't control them, nor do I want to. And I don't invest in them. They don't define my identity. They are nothing. They're a momentary thing. I prefer this over this. If I can't get this, well, okay, so what? Right? You don't make any big deal out of it. So, love you, Jay. Bernice, hello, Bernice. Voy for your information. Boy. Well, hello, Bernice. I'm not sure what that means, but thank you. Anne. Hello, Anne. I rent out rooms in my condo in San Ramon, California, with shared bath. Females and have a room empty if anyone's interested. Who's there? 2 great women. That's great. That's great. Anne's got a room for rent. Anybody in San Ramon? And I've been to San Ramon. Matter of fact, when I lived in California back in the 80s, and I was doing computer, the Bell system, right? SBC now. Now it's called SBC. The big place there in San Ramon. I was there a lot, building the systems. Tatiana, I heard that women naturally multitask and men don't. Not sure about it. Any additional comment, GP? Thank you. Well, neurologically speaking, women can do more things at once than a man. Right? Biologically, or if you look at it from the point of view of evolution, men evolved very task oriented. It was very hierarchical. It was towards very specific things, because the role of the man was the immediate, right? Taking care of today, making sure everything's okay, go hunting for food, and all that, very much task oriented, which is still part of the makeup of the masculine. Okay, whereas women, it was the home and the tribe, right? It was the children. It wasn't so task oriented. I mean, the home was the center of manufacture. They made most of the stuff, the storage, all sorts of things. Plus the children, so you had multiple generations. So the evolution of them was towards legacy. It was towards the big picture. It was multi-generational. It wasn't just this moment. So between the two, the women with this view and the men with this view, enormously successful, right? Enormously potent, right? And we have become incredibly successful, right? And so those characteristics, and so women evolved to be doing more things, but not like we're doing it now. It is not the same. And women do function better in corporate environments, from my direct observation, than men do, as it has become less and less hierarchical and more horizontal in its organization. And so there is that capacity, but it's being stressed to the max in everyone. So yeah, women do have there's a natural thing that evolves, because there's multiple relationships going on several times. Just the whole neurology is going to develop to have a different internal organizational structure. Whereas men, not being that, the neurology is going to develop to be very hierarchical and everything in a little box, which is where we are. Unfortunately, because men became dominant, the patriarchal system came dominant, that got imposed on all of culture. And we've now gotten to the place where it's dysfunctional, right? It was very effective at getting us to a certain technological point, and now it's obsolete. The running of the world needs to be handed over to women. You are far better equipped. We're good at conquering territory, right? Building a house, but we can't decorate it. It's going to look like shit. It's going to look like a guy lives here. A bachelor pad, right, with beer bottles in the trash can and stuff. The bringing of order and harmony is the feminine touch, and we need it worldwide. Sorry, if women were in touch, were in charge, there would be less war, maybe none, because no woman's going to send her kid off to die. So, all right, being free. Hello, being free. Dear GP, I'm so grateful for your words. The last few weeks, you often said and wrote something that was just in time for me. Big danke. Bitte, bitte. Isn't that amazing? You know, I just write what comes to mind, whatever comes into my heart. But there's a beauty that I've seen, because I've recognized that it's not. I'm not isolated. I'm not alone. I'm not one. I'm not an individual. The bodhisattva insight is that this is one enormous functioning entity. The sense that there being a bunch of little individual identities is an illusion. So when some impulse comes to me to write about something, an observation comes, like the Wandering Sage email I've been sending out, which is just the observations that the thoughts that have come to me if I wandered around in an environment that was unfamiliar, right? There's always a personal energy about it, because it means something to me, and of course, it needs to have that personal stories, because that's what gives it emotional depth, right? It's meaningful to me. But if it was just meaningful to me, it's like, a picture of your dinner, right? It's like, it's meaningful to you, but who cares? I don't want to. I don't really care, right? Nobody cares. But if it's going to be valuable, there's got to be a universal. We have to see the universal in the particular. When you do that, now you're in the flow. It's a universal theme. You see, if it's just universal, it becomes philosophical, right? It becomes this theoretical thing we can discuss. And it's like this, and it's like that. There's no human touch. It's got to be something that is a universal theme that is personally identified with. The Buddha refers to, and the only place I've ever seen him refer to it, to enlightenment, in this way, is in the Lankavatara Sutra. And he refers to it over and over again, hundreds of times in this, as the personal realization of Buddha knowledge. Now, you hear people talk about enlightenment's impersonal, nothing's going to, and there's nobody there, nothing to do. A lot of this Neo-Advaita stuff that I'm not a fan of, obviously. And then you hear from the mouth of the Buddha, right? To me, the greatest teacher of all time, refer to the personal realization of Buddha knowledge, self-knowledge, personal realization of it. And so when you read a story like the Buddha, we can either go, oh God, this great man, this enlightened being, or we can go, this Buddha is me. This story is for me. It is a guide to my awakening. The Buddha is not a guy who lived 2,500 years ago. It is the universal theme playing itself out. This is my story. Personal realization of Buddha knowledge. And this is what all genuine spiritual writing and content should be about. It should be an attempt to capture the universal in the very human experience of the personal. so that when I have an insight, it excites me, right? It touches my life personally, and if I can put it into a story, then that brings that where you can see that, and it becomes a personal experience for you. It's not just me anymore, right? It's not, oh, isn't he having a great time or doing a wonderful thing? Who cares, right? Other than me, right? Yeah, I had a great meal last night in that restaurant. Well, so what? You didn't taste it. But if I can bring you to the point where you can taste it, right? Right. And actually start becoming craving the same kind of spiritual depth. Wow. Then I fulfilled my role. This is what we should all aspire to. And it's what I have inspired to. To me, that's what art is all about. It isn't, it requires the participation of the one who's looking at the art. The very famous landscape photographer Ansel Adams, some of the most beautiful, spectacular, all black and white, just amazing photographer. Even developed his own system for teaching called the zone system rather than f-stops and all that. He was once asked, because he did nothing but landscapes, he was asked, why are there no people in your pictures? He says, there's always two people in my pictures, me and you. Because it's always the presentation, right? But if you think I'm just talking about my story, then you're going to miss it. It's you. It's the moment it comes into your consciousness, it's all you. And so that's what the spiritual teacher, the author, the writer, the artist, the musician, the dancer, that's what they all strive for. Ultimately, when it goes beyond personal achievement and goes into the realm of the deep desire to give expression to that which cannot possibly be expressed. I've devoted my life to inevitable failure, and I'm so happy about it. Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you, being free. I will continue to do it. David and Elaine, we're so happy the first part of your grand tour of Europe has started so well, GP. May it continue in the same vein. Thank you guys so much. Thanks and gratitude for your words of wisdom. I may be visiting England sooner than I thought. I can only be in the EU 90 days out of 180 days. So I've got to leave the EU for 3 months, basically. I'm going to find a place that I can rent, and then I'll share it with somebody, so don't have all the expenses. But I can't stay here. But now that England is no longer in the EU, it qualifies. So I may be knocking on your guys' door, at least for a little bit. I've also got to get back and see my granddaughter and my sons and the like. But I do want to make it over. I was hoping to go to Ireland too, but they're in the EU, so I have to pay until I can find some place where I could establish residency. So anyway, thanks and gratitude for your words of wisdom. Thank you guys. Love you. Barbara, do you think these crazy things happening now can be our chance to wake up? They better be. Otherwise, oh my God, we're really screwed, aren't we? Remember who we are and understand that we are one with nature and everything, and change all this madness. Yes. More and more people are going, my God, this is madness. It's evil. It's absurd. It is beyond surreal. Right? And yet there's egoic minds that are, really don't think there's any downside to any of this, right? But you know that there is. And the very fact that it's crazy means you're not, and you're not the only one. And the only reason there's people here listening to me is because it's crazy, and you recognize that it's crazy. But prior to this, we didn't recognize it, right? That's part of the awakening. When the awakening takes place, you see that the room is a mess. It was before you didn't. And we're still in the room is a mess phase. And we're like, whoa, okay, we got it. How do we clean this up? Let's start working on it. But we have to know how it got into this state, right? And we can't use the same mechanism that has created it to fix it. In other words, we can't use the current systems. We can't polarize. We can't use war and violence and aggression. We can't use hatred and categorization. We can't use condemnation. We can't use any of those things because those are the fruits of this particular system. That is how it worked. We have to use love. We have to be love on a level and a dimension that has never been seen before, except in those rare instances of a Buddha or a Christ or a Ramana or a Shankara. Universal, right? To love. Don't polarize. And when you need to critique or criticize, make sure it's coming from total love. And then love is the only answer. It is the only answer. I'm not just an old hippie. This is a perception of reality. Love will lead us to where we want to go. Clearly, hatred, arrogance, egoism, greed, delusion, this is what you get. So, thank you, Barbara. Jay, I know I inundated you with questions and comments today, but I like always your answers are always revealing. And I thank nature for presenting you to us. Novavokam, Namovakam, and Merry Christmas. Have you been good this year? Probably not. Depends on who's keeping score. And it's okay, Jay. Some weeks you're absolutely quiet, and it's okay. You're allowed to. There's a lot on people's hearts and minds these days. One of the reasons I've decided that after a long time of not doing it, I'm going to teach a workshop on money. Calling it Money Through the Chakras, and I'm going to show how money is perceived in different parts of us, how it gets really distorted because the culture at large adopts perceptions of things. And we see that all of the various perceptions in us, and we tend to favor one perception over another. The same thing happens on the cultural level. But I decided to do it about money because it is such a contentious thing right now. And it's also causing an enormous amount of anxiety. The income equality, the wealth inequality is just overwhelming in the world. and just things like Bitcoin, which is based imaginary. I mean, there's absolutely nothing there. I think it's a subject that we need to all take a more close look at. So I have not taught anything about money and all of that sort of stuff for years, actually. But I decided to do it. I think it's time, and it's going to be in January. I'll be, I think, in a day or two, the first announcement about it. And I'm going to be giving a super early bird price and all that. Look at that, money, because it's going to cost money to learn about money. Funny how it all works. But at any rate, the job of the spiritual teacher is to address suffering where it is. And this is what it is. The relationships between the gender. I just did something recently about that because it's causing so much suffering. Money is causing so much suffering. And the conflict about our health, that has really been exacerbated by the coronavirus and the debate over the vaccine, the distrust of information and the governments. It's like huge. It's like So those subjects are stuff that while the non-dual teacher would love to just say, well, there's nothing there, there's nobody here, right? You can't do it. I have to address this where everyone is. So I'm going to be doing that coming up very, very soon. Actually, just go to the shop. It's actually on my site now, gpwalsh.com. There's a little thing, Money in the Chakras, if you're interested in jumping in early. I'm doing a super early bird so I can get some momentum to help me keep going here. And so, hello, Chris. Greetings, GP and all. Chrissy. Good. So glad you're here. Chukul. Chukul. Lovely name. Wow. Looking forward to catching up with you if you come to the UK. I'm pretty sure I'm going to, just not sure how. Love is the answer. Amen, Chrissy. Amen. Teresa, very inspiring words. GP, deep thanks. All the best for you and everyone. All we need is love. It's true. This love is not, I love to say this, not like fine china, right? It's not this thing that sits on the shelf and you dust it, right? And you use it for special occasions and you'd never let the children touch it. This is earthy, it's gritty, it's covered with with mud, right? It's wearing pants with holes in them. This is the kind of love that can get down into it with you. It's visceral. It is powerful. It's Jesus having dinner with the sinners and the drunks and the prostitutes. that's love. Anya, from craziness to awareness, it would be the perfect time. I think now is about the right time for it. Yeah. We are on the verge of a major awakening. We are. And I can say that because we have to be. Otherwise, it's over. This beautiful little experiment, this beautiful ball here in the blue ball in the midst of this vastness, right? It's got to. This is where the evolutionary leap takes place, all the way pushed all the way to the edge. And I'm just enough of a hopeless optimist that I say, yeah, that's exactly what's happening, and it's going to. And it's not just wishful thinking. I see the evidence of it. I see it in you. I see it all around. I see it in the most unlikely places. So it has to be, and because it has to be, it will. But it's not going to look that way. In the Hindu teaching about the yugas, the 4 periods of time that Vishnu's dream phases that it goes through. In the Kali Yuga, the last, which is a 500-year period, which we're now at the end of that 500 years, that in the end it was going to look as if it was futile, as if evil was going to win. And it was at that then that this incredible light was going to dawn. And I am the light. You are that light. And it is dawning. It is not out there. It is you and I. It is the light of, even to recognize, yes, love is the answer, is that light, that recognition. That is the Christ principle. Chrissy, with a year 6 approaching 2022, we will all be more in our heart space. Yes, we will. Love to you, GP, says Tatiana. And thank you for your comments and answering my cues. My pleasure. Thank you, Chrissy. Thank you, Anya. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, everybody, one and all. I think I will just bring it to a close now. I made it with the battery. I'm happy about that. So anyway, I may be able to set up something a little bit more nice when I'm going to get some lights and the like. So I had to sell all the lights and everything. I couldn't bring everything with me. So I'm here for a month, so I'm a little settled right now. So anyway, I love you all so much. Thank you for being you. Thank you for heeding this message. Thank you for the intelligence of your questions. And most of all, thank you for your love. I love you all. Namaste.